All right, let's talk politics. Election day is 6 weeks from today. Meanwhile, Vice President Harris is reportedly considering making a stop at our southern border during her trip to Arizona this Friday. That visit to the battleground state comes as the Democratic nominee tries walking back a number of her previous border stances.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy is live at the White House. Hey, Peter.
Good morning, and for most of the vice president's flip-flops, the Harris campaign has been able to tell us she changed her position. Here it is now. But for some reason, they cannot tell us whether or not she's changed her position on a 2019 stance she had, making people brought to this country illegally as children U.S. citizens. Axios is reporting Harris pledged in 2019 to take 4 executive actions as president that would give 2 million dreamers a path to citizenship and shield more than 6 million undocumented immigrants from deportation. Asked this week whether she'd take those same executive actions, her campaign declined to answer. The Harris team is so shy about this now, which would be a surprise to 2018 Kamala Harris, Grand Marshal of the annual Kingdom Day Parade in Los Angeles, where she was standing beside actor Jussie Smollett, chanting, "Down with deportation."
Up with education, down with deportation. Up with education, down with deportation. Up with education, down with deportation. Up with education, down with deportation.
The vice president's border experience has been tough to track. She insists now that she was not the border czar, never was, but she has tried to keep some street cred about the border, like when we traveled with her there for her only trip as vice president a few months after President Biden put her in charge of the root causes of migration.
How did you decide that right now was the right time to make your first trip to the border?
Well, it's not my first trip. I've been to the border many times.
As the person in charge of the response.
Because as I've long said, I said back in March I was going to come to the border, so this is not a new plan.
She has not been back since then, but there is a possibility she could visit in Arizona on Friday, according to a report in the New York Times. If she does, that would be an acknowledgement by the Harris campaign that the border is a huge liability for her ahead of the election 6 weeks from today. Back to you.
Yeah, Peter, the big thing that she keeps saying when asked is, I'm the only one here to prosecute transnational gangs. But those were her days a couple of times in California. Does that hold up today is the bigger question. Does that show she's tough on the border? Or does your exchange show that she's not tough on the border?
Well, to your point, just look at the arc of her career. She did prosecute transnational gangs, and then she was elected U.S. Senator. And then that video where she is chanting "down with deportation." So we are supposed to believe that her experience with all these hardcore human smugglers and gang members and traffickers doing business across the border in California led her to want fewer deportations in 2018.
And Peter, we have no idea for sure whether or not she's going to go on Friday, but we do know 2 things that she probably will say. She's going to say, we tried to fix it, but Donald Trump pulled the plug on that bipartisan border bill. She's also, I bet you $1, she says that border crossings are the lowest right now that they have been since 2020, because apparently, I was reading in the paper today, that is true.
Yeah, well, they redefined the way that they count those crossings.
And it would, I'll take that dollar bet, by the way. It would make sense that she would say that because that's what she's been saying, but the things that she's been saying have her way behind Trump on the border. And for her to go on Friday would be extraordinary because she's been, I know they say she's not the border czar, they don't like that term, but she's been in charge of the root causes of migration. She still felt pressure to go about 3 months after President Biden gave her that gig. Hasn't been back since. And if they thought that everything was great, like you just described, the talking point, Trump killed the bipartisan deal, border crossings are down, they wouldn't go. But they feel like they have to go if that's what happens on Friday.
Such a good point.
Well, Peter, if you lose that bet, if I lose the bet, I'm taking it out of your allowance, okay?
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.